Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Isaac from Guns for Everyone. Wanted to take a minute, actually, this is going to be a lot longer than a minute, to talk about the new enhanced requirements for concealed carry training in the state of Colorado. This bill, House Bill 1174, was signed by our governor on Tuesday, June 4th. I think that was Tuesday. June 4th, and what it does is increases the training requirements for concealed carry permits in the state of Colorado. I want to talk about why this is bullshit. But first, let me tell you who this video is for. This video is not for anti-gunners. This video, they don't need, they're not in a place to hear this information, so it's not really intended for them. This is intended for the people. Let me turn this on. That better? Somewhat. Let me take these off. All right. This is intended for the people who are supposedly pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment, pro-self-defense, and even pro-training, who think that it's a good idea to allow our legislature to mandate training for a right, your right to conceal carry. I was surfing the internet today, and I was spending time in a shithole that many of you have probably heard of called Reddit. There is some great information on Reddit. I haven't found it yet, but people tell me it's out there. I was reading today, just looking for some information on some related topics to this, and I stumbled upon a bunch of people who were praising this. Pro-gun people who were saying, I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with our government mandating training for carrying a firearm. I don't know how you get to that place, except maybe you just don't really pay attention um, to your own arguments, I guess. So that's the purpose of the video, is to explain to people who either don't believe that mandated training is stupid or don't understand why mandated training is stupid. I wrote myself a little list here so I don't forget. So first of all, I got to give credit to Edgar for all the work that he has done to get us ready for this. I was under the impression up until earlier this week that this law change would go into effect in July of 2025. And Edgar informed me this week that it's in fact going to go into effect the 1st of August, August 7th to be exact. We got a lot to do to get ready for that. Guns for Everyone has provided free training across Colorado and other states as well for the last 12 years. We've had over 100,000 people come to our classes. I would say we have our process down pretty well. We do it for free, and our goal is to bring as much training to the public, high quality training to the public as we possibly can, to do it for free. This was Edgar's idea in the first place. He's a Mexican, so I'm the white guy who likes to take credit for his work. But honestly, this is Edgar's brainchild and his blood, sweat, and tears that have made this possible. And I've been fortunate to be able to join him in that. We've overcome challenges. COVID presented several challenges to us, to everyone, when we were trying to figure out how to offer our training and still take reasonable precautions for people's safety during the beginning stages of COVID. You may have your feelings about COVID and the way it went, but everybody needs to remember the way it was in March of 2020. And there was a lot of chaos in trying to figure out how to adapt necessary and important things like firearms training to a society that was very afraid of this virus. Edgar worked very hard to make that work. I'm not going to say we did it perfectly, but we did a good faith effort to make it work. And Edgar did a great job of helping us navigate through that, and I give him all the credit. Now with this new challenge, the new challenge includes 8 hours of mandated training time for concealed carry class. In that training time, we have to cover several topics according to the law. There are, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 9 required training topics that must be discussed. We have to present a written test to the students, open book. We have to have the students shoot at least 50 rounds of ammunition and achieve a passing score of at least 80%. And we have to follow some other rules as well, rules and laws to validate our courses. This is dumb. Prior to this in Colorado, a handgun training class was required. The class must be taught by a certified instructor. The class must not be entirely online, and the class must have taken place within the last 10 years. That's a pretty loose guideline, and even that I don't agree with. I don't agree with permits in the first place. I think if you have a right to something, then asking for permission for that sort of negates the whole argument that it is a right. Colorado used to be a pro-gun state. It has declined rapidly in the last few years. And the reason it has declined rapidly in the last few years is because the nearly 2 million gun owners in this state have sat on their asses and not stood up for their own rights. I can promise you that politicians will always be the assholes trying to take away your rights. That is as true as gravity itself. The check to that is supposed to be us. The check to that is us standing up and resisting and making our voices heard and putting pressure on these politicians to not give them the space to make that happen. And in Colorado, since 2013, we have not done that. We got our act together somewhat in 2013, and after that, we quit. And the legislators paid attention, realized that gun owners were not standing up for themselves, and have now been pressing law changes since 2021 that have been a serious problem in this state and will continue to be so. So, what is Guns for Everyone doing? We are working on making sure that we can continue to offer our free concealed carry classes. It will not look like it did before, but true to its spirit, these classes will continue to be free. In some cases, there may be a required range fee for you to be able to finish the class. That range fee, whenever we have any say in that, will be zero. But when we need help from local ranges and local instructors, we will have to work with them and what they require. Our instruction will remain free. We're going to be experimenting with some things, and it's probably going to be bumpy as we go. We've got a lot to do, and we've got a lot to make sure that we're ready for on August 7th, and I guarantee you that we will make changes to our initial plan after we get a few reps under our belt with this. So if you come to our classes during that time, please be patient with us as we navigate this. We are doing our absolute best, and remember, we're doing this for free. So if you have a complaint about it, then you can give your certificate back and shut the fuck up. The spirit of criticism to improve things is always welcome. The spirit of bitching about things, especially behind our back and not to our faces, is the height of hypocrisy, especially if you took that certificate with you and used it to go get your concealed carry permit. So you can shut the fuck up about it. And I'm not apologetic about that at all. If you had integrity, you would say your complaints directly to our faces, where we could address concerns, make changes where necessary, and continue to improve the classes. So, got that all out of the way. Let's talk about why mandating training is stupid. So, first of all, we've had a lot of people in our classes over the years. The reason why we've had so many people in our classes is because training is mandated in the state of Colorado. It has been since 2003, at least, and people want to carry guns, and getting a training class is a requirement. And so they come to our classes. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 5% of the people in our classes actually want to be there, actually would have shown up even if it wasn't required, would take the effort and the time to show up for our free resource and make sure that they're continually learning about this stuff. But that's not what happens. And I know that's not what happens because we have offered multiple versions of our concealed carry classes for the last several years. So you could come back potentially to 5 of our classes and not hear the same information. You could get new information in each one of our free classes, all in the spirit of getting better at preparing yourself to defend your life. A very small minority of students who take the class, show up for an additional class, actually have the interest and the will to continue their training. Uh, it's a very small minority. Most people don't want to be there. Our job is to present the best information that we possibly can. Your job as a student is to take that information and learn as much from as you can from it. But if you don't even want to be there in the first place, then you're not going to do that. You're not going to take that information and use it to continue to learn. You may learn something in the class, because being in a classroom and having somebody like me or Edgar talk to you for 3 hours, there's no way you're not going to learn something. But are you going to remember that information? Are you going to use that information? Are you going to take the spirit of the information and build on it? Or are you going to eventually just forget everything that you heard in that class? If you don't want to be there, you're not going to keep that information. You're not going to remember it. You're not going to use it. And it's useless to you. Frankly, I don't want you there. If that information is useless to you, it is a waste of your time and it's a waste of my time. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're really interested in being there or not. So the doors are open to everyone, and we welcome everybody into our classes. Guns for everyone. We mean that. But if you're there to check off a box for your local king so that you can carry a gun around in public, I commend that you take your self-defense seriously enough to go through the steps required in order to make that happen. But as far as learning goes, which is the whole point of a class, you're wasting your time. You are absolutely wasting your time by being there. I can't dictate your values to you. I can't make this important to you. I do my best to present why it should be important, but ultimately you're a human being, you're an adult, and it's your choice whether or not you take that seriously. So mandating training does not build responsibility, does not build interest, does not build effort. It just checks the minimum requirements, and that's what most people are going to do. They're going to do the minimum requirements, and they're going to disregard almost everything that they hear or learn in those classes. So the goal of mandated training is supposed to be to increase knowledge, to increase responsibility, to increase awareness. And it's not going to do that. You can't get there by mandating it. There has been a big push in the firearms world over the last, I would say, approximately 20 years to make training fashionable, to make it cool, to make it interesting, to make it valuable, to get away from the FUDs who teach you, like all the stuff that you don't care about and the outdated information, and to bring good quality training to the public. And I've been a part of that push over the last 20 years, and I'm proud to be a part of that push. And that's the only effective way that you're going to create more interest and more engagement with training. You have to make it something that people are interested in of their own accord. Mandating it does not make it interesting. Mandating it does not make it cool. Mandating it does not make it fashionable. I don't know anything that makes training or any part of this any less cool than saying that the government says you have to do it. That is completely retarded. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that the real reason why these laws were passed was not to promote interest in training, to not promote responsibility, but rather to create more barriers for people to carry guns. The cost of these classes is going to go up for nearly all instructors. That means the cost of the class will go up for the students as well. And cost is a barrier to people being able to carry guns. Cost and time. Many people do not have the time to block out a day to spend 8 hours doing something like this. That's a luxury. That's a luxury that you have the more money you have. So this is going to affect the poor. As all laws tend to do, they tend to affect the poor the most. And so that's what we're going to see with this class, with these changes. So mandated learning is ineffective. Mandated learning puts responsibility onto the government. Training, gun ownership is a huge responsibility. It's a right. I agree with that right. But with rights come responsibilities. And when you place the requirements in the hands of the government, then the responsibility goes with it. And now the government is responsible for that training, which ironically puts some of the fault of bad behavior on the government. They mandate the training and they set the guidelines for the training. And then when people step outside the guidelines, believing that the training was sufficient, then the responsibility lands on the government. They're not going to take that responsibility. They're going to put it back on you in the courtroom. They're going to put back on you in the fines, the penalties, and all of that stuff. But morally speaking, logically speaking, the government has now taken on that responsibility for you, which is not an effective way to run a society. So that's another reason why mandated training is retarded. Another important reason is that mandated training constrains effective learning. Many of the things we do in our classes, we have learned over time how to make this training as effective as it can be, including for the people who don't want to be there. It's a huge mountain to climb. We've had to be very creative. We've had to adjust many things. We've had to test many things, a lot of failures, a lot of successes, but all of that comes with the freedom to do the class the way that we want to do it. If we don't have that freedom, if we're constrained by these requirements, that shuts down the effectiveness that the training can have. So once again, government is removing the creativity that the free market is supposed to solicit. So that's really off the top of my head this afternoon. If I sat down and really wrote this out and thought about it a lot longer, I'm sure I could come up with some even better, but certainly more arguments about why this is ineffective. I'd be interested in the comments to hear your reasons why you believe this is either ineffective or effective. If you come with a disagreement, you better come ready to back that up. We know from lots of data that mandated standardized testing is not effective at promoting learning. That is indisputable. We understand how responsibility works. I mean, we don't always follow that model, but we understand how it works and we can see how it plays out in society. And we understand free market and we understand how the government works and that the government constrains free market, and especially in areas where there is absolutely no need for the government to stick their hands in, there will be a decrease in the creativity and the ability um, for the needs of the public to be met by the industry, the instructors, whatever you want to call it. So be ready to defend your position if you're going to speak up in the comments. I want to hear it. I want to hear why you disagree. I want to hear that. I want to make something perfectly understood. I am a huge proponent of training. I think it is incredibly important when you're dealing with dangerous stuff to learn how to manage that risk. There's a lot of ways we do that. In our classes, a lot of it is presenting knowledge and ideas. In some of our classes, it's practical hands-on skills. When you buy a gun, you are interested in how that gun handles risk. You want to know how the safeties work. You have different things that you're looking at for choosing that gun. You understand why learning is important. The question is, do you take it seriously? Do you prioritize it? I think you should, because the gun has the capacity to cause a huge amount of damage, a huge amount of bad outcomes if mishandled. And you're training because you may need this gun in one of the most stressful moments of your life. That's what makes training important. That's why we recommend it. That's why we make it available for free. And that's why we do what we do. I can't make it important to you. You have to make that choice. But I absolutely agree that training is important. I absolutely disagree that government mandated training is important. This state has had a lot of laws passed this legislative session. It will continue to go this direction as long as gun owners decide not to do anything. If the extent of your participation in defending gun rights is comments on YouTube, comments on social media, you are full of shit and you should just be quiet. You're not helping. You're not doing anything positive. If you are showing up if you are testifying, if you are contributing money to the causes and to the organizations that are actually doing the work, if you are taking people to the range, if you are changing hearts and minds in person, practically speaking, then you have room to talk about why the direction of our state is not good when it comes to gun rights. But I promise you, if gun owners who said they cared actually did something, this state would not be in the position it's in right now. So take the responsibility to stand up for your rights. Stop bitching about it on social media and step up. And for those of you who out there who do not like the way that we conduct our training, I welcome your guys' comments. I wish you would have the guts to show up and say it to our faces, or at least present them in a way that we can have that conversation publicly, because it's really important that these things get hashed out publicly. So if you're one of those people, speak up. Let's talk about it. All right. Stop hiding behind anonymity on social media. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm in such a good mood now from talking about all of this. I'm gonna go eat my dinner and try to think positive. We've got a lot of opportunity coming up for you. We've got training classes. We're now adding medical classes, both in Arvada and in Colorado Springs. And there's a lot of opportunities for you to come out and learn. Check us out, gunsforeveryone.com. Sign up for our classes, show up, participate, take responsibility. We'd love to see you there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.